Good morning, everyone. My name is John Wettenhall, and I'm Product Marketing Manager here at Atlassian for Confluence Questions. I'm excited to welcome you to our webinar this morning. We have a great presentation for all of you. We have two presenters. One of Atlassian's customers, Kim Wall, who's a Senior IT Analyst at the Principal Financial Group, and Ryan Anderson, who is a Product Marketing Manager here at Atlassian on the Collaboration Marketing team. They're going to tell you all about how Q&A can change the way that you share information within your company. So I'd like to start us off just with a quick poll, which you can answer on your screen here. And we'd just like to know if you already own Confluence Questions, and whether you're using it or if you're just interested in evaluating. So we'll give you a few moments to answer the poll there. And hopefully everyone's had a chance to answer the poll, so we'll go ahead and see the results. And it looks like we've got a good mix of users and also people that are interested in it. So I think regardless of whether you're using Confluence Questions today or whether you're interested in evaluating it, you'll see maybe some ways similar to how you're using it, but also we'll give you some new ideas about different things you can do with Q&A at your company. So with that, I will hand it over to our first presenter, Kim Wall from Principal Financial Group. Take it away, Kim.
Thanks, John. So as John mentioned, I work at Principal Financial Group, and we are a large enterprise. So what you're hearing from me will be quite a bit different than what you hear from Ryan, but I think between the two of us, we should cover the bases of most of you that are interested in learning about Confluence Questions and how it can be used. So today what I'm going to talk about is how we introduced Q&A to Principal Financial Group, why we got it, who did we really intend it for, how did we go about rolling it out, and really now how's it going, and then also a special case, sort of a mini case study that we have around migration from an existing system to a new system and how we're using Confluence Questions as a self-service option versus a traditional support model. So first, before we do that, I'll talk a little bit about Principal itself. Principal Financial Group, obviously, we are a financial company. We offer everything from retirement, insurance, investment products, all kinds of financial services, products and services. And we're located in Des Moines, Iowa, but we are a global company. And for the last 12 years, we've actually been on Computerworld's Best Places to Work in IT. So we do pride ourselves on trying to provide the best tooling and the best experience for our IT professionals. And about me, my name again is Kim Wall, and I'm part of our application development support team. We really work to empower and increase the productivity of our development community within Principal. I'm also an Agile evangelist, so I do some Agile coaching, Agile training, that sort of thing, and I'm kind of known as Atlassian girl because I have my face in front of people all the time talking about our Atlassian tool stack, of which we've adopted most of the Atlassian products within the company. So Confluence Questions was a natural fit as we were looking for a Q&A solution. So why did we choose Confluence Questions? Well, we have a large IT community, and we're in multiple states as well as in India as our primary focus here for where we rolled out Confluence Questions. And we really do have a lot of great knowledge within the company. We have decades of experience. We have multiple business units, and each of them have their own IT area. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of great knowledge across all of these business units, but the cross-business unit sharing may or may not be there. So we have Jira in-house, and Jira does fill the gap for support issues, but what about that peer support aspect? We do have a lot of subject matter experts across the company, and those subject matter experts may or may not have time to actually address all of the questions that come into them. I mean, who really has time to answer all the questions that come into them over and over again? And with that little cross-business unit sharing, there is a lot of potential for reinventing the wheel. So we were really hoping to harness that tribal knowledge and really spread the wealth across the business units in a more peer support sort of way. So for our rollout, our target audience was really limited to our IT community. they're already accustomed to a Q&A self-help sort of tool. A lot of them have used tools on the internet to get answers to their coding problems and things like that, so it seemed like a natural fit. We really wanted to provide an internal Stack Overflow or a Stack Exchange type solution, but Stack Overflow and Stack Exchange wouldn't work for us because we do have a lot of proprietary content that we can't have go public. So we started with that IT community, and there are primary users of Confluence as well, so it was a natural fit. And for our purposes, our IT community really is comprised of developers, quality assurance, business analysts, architects, and those IT project managers. So how did we go about our rollout? Well, we knew we couldn't just throw it out there and hope that it would work on its own and it would be successful, so we really did choreograph the rollout. We wanted to make sure that there would be content available, so when the users went out there for the first time, it wasn't just blank and maybe a bit formidable. So we wanted it to have some content for the first time that would not only encourage them with good format of the questions, but also give them some ideas for topics. And the way we did that is we identified and maybe did a little bit of bribing to some internal experts that we knew across business units. And I mentioned here that they'll thank you later, and I hope that's the case here, but hopefully some of that wheel reinvention and repeat question answering is reduced because of this. But what we had them do is seed initial questions and topics to act as a guide for the users and to hopefully avoid a mess. We didn't want people not really knowing how to use the topics or not understanding that it was a peer support sort of tool rather than a support team sort of tool. So we wanted to make sure the content that was out there was relevant. So what we did is we reached out to, like I said, several subject matter experts across the business units, and some of the examples that we used as seed, some of those topics we used were Maven, Jira itself, Confluence itself, Java, .NET, those sorts of things. So that's what we used to really seed it. And then we got the word out. And the way we got the word out is we used some targeted marketing. So the targeted marketing we wanted to start with was specifically our initial audience of Java and .NET developers. Again, the reason we wanted to use these folks is because they're very accustomed to that Stack Overflow and Stack Exchange sort of environment, and they're also the folks that tend to have the most subject matter expert overload. So we really wanted to get them in there, get them in the gate first. So what we did is we reached out to a few influential developers within those spaces to help drive traffic there, and then we also used some community mailing lists. If you look to the right of the slide, you'll see a sample of our email where we sent it out to our mailing lists for the Java developers and also the .NET developers, and it just kind of gave them a quick view into why we were doing this. You know, do you ever have questions that you get sent to you via your coworker via email, IM, or quick stop by the cube, and how many times does this happen, and how often could these questions actually benefit other developers? And so we wanted to give people kind of an idea of why we were doing this, and then also give them some instructions on how to use it and drive them out to the site. So that's why we chose our Java and our .NET developers as our initial target audience. Once we got that out there, we wanted to make sure that we were reinforcing good habits. As I mentioned, we did that initial seeding and we choreographed the rollout to keep garbage from going in there. So we wanted to continue that good trend of having clean questions and a good use of topics. So especially at the beginning, we wanted to reinforce the good habits by kind of monitoring what was going out there. We wanted to continue to direct users to questions, and we also wanted to make sure that the questions that were going out there were actually getting answered. So I often would take it upon myself to kind of take a look through questions and see what was sitting out there as unanswered. And if there appeared to be an actual answer to a question, I would shoot a note to the person that asked the question and said, hey, there are some answers out here. Can you make sure that if it makes sense for this question that you actually accept an answer so that we're encouraging people to actually answer the questions and get rewarded for doing so. So we wanted to monitor and encourage those good habits, and that's one way that we did that. Another way that I did that is I'd often go in there and clean up extraneous topics that maybe didn't make any sense. So I was a little bit of a topic monitor as well. And then we really wanted to make sure that beyond that initial rollout, that initial target group, that we continued to encourage adoption. So once we had our Java and our .NET developers in there and rolling, we started to see other uses for it. The rest of our IT community, the Agile community within the company. So we wanted to make sure we used several different ways to encourage adoption. And on this screen, you see several different ways that we did that. The top one is just a gadget, displayed on the Confluence landing page that everybody sees when they log into Confluence, and it kind of directs them that way. Have you ever wanted to use this? Have you thought about using it? Go ahead and ask a question. To the right, you'll see the macro that we have on our Agile space within Confluence that displays a feed of the current questions within that Agile topic. So again, it's a way to direct people to the content, but also show them, what's been coming in and maybe answer their questions right out of the gate without them having to even leave the space. And then below that is an automatic reply, just an out-of-office message that kind of directs people in the way that we want them to go. If you have a question about X, Y, and Z, first search Confluence, then check Confluence Questions, and if that doesn't help you, go ahead and create a JIRA issue. So we're kind of giving people guidance all along the way to make sure that we're getting them to go look at Confluence Questions. After all of that, I would actually declare this a mission accomplished. We did achieve our goal of helping offload support and also avoid SME overload by directing people to questions. As of the time of this presentation, we had 28 unique topics, and those are growing, and they run the gamut from dev to testing, user experience, Agile, hackathons, tools, user groups, pretty much whatever you can think of that relates to the IT community. We've had a reduction of repeat issues in JIRA as well. As a person that is the main project lead on several JIRA support projects, I've been able to see a reduction in those types of questions that came in, and word on the street is it's happening for other areas too. Sanity of our SMEs has been saved, which really is my ultimate goal here. And then we actually captured that tribal knowledge. So if you think about having decades of experience within a company, and you have a portion of your community that's close to retirement, it's really important to capture that knowledge and make sure that A, you're not reinventing the wheel, and B, we actually have that information somewhere for when they retire. And this is a good way to do that. So we've had a great deal of tribal knowledge captured, and the amount of information just keeps growing. So because of the success we started to see just in general with Confluence Questions, and because we saw it being a successful peer support mechanism, we have a new system that we're rolling out that it's a replacement of a widely used system within the company that it's IT-wide, and it has approximately, I would say, 500 to 750 users at any given time. And the new system, to support that same amount of users, will only have about 2 people, and on a good day, maybe 5 people to actually support the tool. So because the staff is limited, we wanted to make sure that we had a stocked knowledge base with content, that there was easy sharing of best practices, and that common questions could be captured. And we wanted to make sure that users can actually help each other and share those best practices rather than relying on those 2 to 5 people to help them along the way. So we chose to use Confluence Questions as self-service. So Confluence itself is going to provide a single point of service for our systems users. Those questions are going to be used as the primary self-service mechanism, but we also do have a JIRA project that's been created for issues that require maybe escalation or expertise beyond that of the community. But we hope that by having the Confluence space with all of the system and user documentation in that one spot, that questions macro loaded in to provide sort of an FAQ for the users, and also then the links to very easily get out to create an issue in JIRA if necessary, that one single point of service will be useful for people. So the rollout is actually happening right now at the same time as this meeting, and it's a new system that's rolling out to quite a large audience, as I mentioned. We already rolled it out to a pilot group that actually first experienced the new system, but also the new mechanism for self-service via Confluence Questions. That full system rollout is happening now, and people will be gradually trafficking the Confluence space more and more. And we have that FAQ section pulling in the questions topic, and those questions have been seeded by the pilot group and by the support folks that have been helping to roll it out. And what we're planning on using is that FAQ section. Like I said, it's being populated by the questions macro, but we're going to take some of those popular topics that we see bubbling up to the top, and we're going to use those as natural seeds for more detailed knowledge-based articles. Now, this rollout is different than our initial system rollout for questions. It's far more structured. Far more guidance is given for this rollout as compared to what we did for the general rollout, which we allowed to be more fluid and organic. So the reason around this is we wanted to make sure that, again, because we're using a very specific topic to seed our FAQ section, that people didn't just put random things in there. We wanted to make sure that people understood that it was going to be functioning as an FAQ. We wanted to make sure that people understood that it was their responsibility to go out and actually provide answers, for their peers versus waiting for a support person to come out and answer it. So there was a lot more guidance given to the users. And we think that it'll be a successful rollout. Within the pilot group, it's been very successful. We'll see how that goes when we go to the larger system, but with the smaller pilot group, it's been very successful and the feedback has been very positive. So just a couple of notes then from the trenches. Really, it's important to know your users. That's going to be one of your biggest keys to success. Know who your users are and target those communications and marketing materials accordingly. Know that your Java developers or your .NET developers are used to something like Stack Overflow and maybe relate it to that. Encourage that good behavior by providing guidance and also help guiding known subject matter experts to those unanswered questions. Maybe shepherd some people there to not only seed content, but to also, volunteer, encourage them to volunteer to answer those unanswered questions. We also want to promote that knowledge sharing and explain the benefits of capturing the tribal knowledge. At first, you might be met with some resistance because it's work, right? It's taking time out of their day to go answer questions, maybe document some things that they hadn't thought to document before. But in the long run, it ultimately should save them some time, and they should thank you for that in the long run. So make sure that you promote the knowledge sharing, explain the value of having that tribal knowledge in one place, and explain the value of peer support. And it should help overcome any resistance that you might meet. So that is pretty much all I have to share with our why did we get it, how did we do it, and how are we doing at Principal Financial Group. And so with that, I will send it over to Ryan.
Great. Thanks, Kim. That was great. Let me just get set up here on the slides. Great. Well, before I get started, I just wanted to let you know a little bit about myself. I'm the Product Marketing Manager for Confluence here at Atlassian, and I've been here for almost 4 years. My 4-year anniversary is coming up next month. The main thing you need to know about me is that I just love to ride my bikes. And I've done many cross-country trips from LA to New York, and have hit many states across the way. So I'd like to break this presentation down into 2 parts. The first one is, as Kim mentioned, be intentional. Be intentional with the way that you roll out Confluence Questions. And the second is set it free. Once you are and you've laid out a framework, be prepared to let Confluence Questions get out there and let your users take control and let it go where it needs to go. And ultimately, that'll be the most helpful for your company. Great. So before we begin, I wanted to give you some more context. Confluence Questions, as Kim mentioned, is a really effective solution for sharing knowledge and building a community as a team or for a specific project. And special interest groups are really important to that process. Here at Atlassian, some of our special interest groups were the build engineering teams. And these were, as Kim suggested, people that were seeing repeat questions all the time about how to get your code deployed to production. People in HR, all the time people wanted to know what was the travel policy, where could they find the travel policy, what were our public holidays, how much leave, how do you sign up for leave. And those were kind of 2 of our key special interest groups, as well as a number of other teams. Today, what I wanted to talk to you about is how you can get these questions how you can get Confluence Questions adopted by your entire company and unite all of your teammates and departments so that everyone is using Confluence Questions. And before I dive into the presentation and the first part about being intentional, I just wanted to launch a poll. So we'll just give a couple seconds here for everyone to fill out, and we're just kind of curious if you haven't rolled out Confluence Questions or you're in the process of it, or if you've already done it, how many people are you rolling Confluence Questions out to? We'll just give about 10 more seconds here. Great. So hopefully you should be able to see the results on the screen here. It looks like most people in the audience are looking to roll Confluence Questions out to below 100 people, and then we've got a number of people rolling it out to somewhere around below 500, and then beyond that we have about 10% looking to roll it out between 500 and 2,000. Great, thanks. So let's get started here. I wanted to talk about how we were intentional at Atlassian, and the way that we use Confluence Questions at Atlassian, and I really think about a lot of our products is they're mission critical for us and to build a community, and that's really the most important thing and the reason we chose to roll Confluence Questions out. And it also helps us with dog fooding. So of all the Atlassians here. We really look at everyone as an internal customer, and it's a really good way for us to get feedback. Great. So Atlassian has 800 employees across 5 offices in San Francisco, Austin, Amsterdam, Tokyo, and Sydney. At the end of the day, we needed Confluence Questions to not only unite each office, but also tie all of our offices together. And it's not easy, but it's really working well for us, and we're past the point of no return where Atlassians already know to look in Confluence for information they need and to ask a question when they can't find it. So I'm going to dive into 4 strategies that have worked for us in rolling Confluence Questions out to the entire Atlassian community. So if you want everyone contributing to your organization's collective brain, you can't solely rely on individual special interest groups, although they are really helpful. You've got to invite the masses. And you really have to be smart about the topics you seed your Confluence Questions site with by picking topics that everyone will find useful. For instance, we created a topic for every office, our company culture, and things like relocating and tax returns. But right now I'm going to focus on 3 topics that were really successful, 3 topics that we seeded that were really successful in growing Confluence Questions. So on screen here, this is what our current topics page looks like on our intranet, which we call EAC. We didn't seed all of these topics, but we started our instance off with ones we knew would be both popular and useful to Atlassians. We also seeded our topics with questions and answers. This is one submitted by John to help other marketing teams take mobile screenshots. And Matt, who is also on the marketing team, was ready to answer with a seeded response. And that's a really key point. It's not just about topics. It's about also seeding questions and answers. And as Kim said, so when people come to Confluence Questions, there's already valuable knowledge there. Secondly, Confluence Questions is a perfect tool to have some fun with. Not all questions, if you're familiar with Stack Overflow or Quora, are serious, and yours shouldn't be either. Just remember that you're not only building a knowledge base, but you're also building a community, and it needs to be a place where people want to go and contribute to. As I said, one of the most sensible and useful topics was one for questions related to San Francisco, so that all San Franciscan Atlassians can rally around on screen. can rally around. And on screen, you'll see the homepage for our topic. So here's a few examples. We have questions in San Francisco that range from safety, like this one about the best route to walk home at night from the office. We also have questions about a clarification on why we choose which public holidays we acknowledge as a company. There's even questions in the San Francisco topic about the fears about our ever-changing coffee supply. And this is one of my favorites. When an Atlassian presents at an all-staff, our president always gives them a celebrity lookalike. But for John, who's our mediator today, our president couldn't think of a good celebrity lookalike. The Atlassian community was happy to crowdsource one for everyone to see through Confluence Questions. And in case you were curious, the community felt like John looked more like Pete Campbell from Mad Men than Michael J. Fox by 2 votes. And I think more than anything else, that's just a testament to John's looks. Okay, on to the third point. The third key strategy is to reserve exclusive content for Confluence Questions. It needs to be a destination to find important information that can only be found in Confluence Questions. A good example of exclusive content across the company is interviewing. At Atlassian, we're growing rapidly, so every team is really interviewing quite a lot, and interviewing is just a tricky subject in general. I don't think most people get the training and the attention that's needed. So we have a topic that's just dedicated really towards tips, tricks, and processes. We created the topic so that if anyone is interviewing a potential candidate, they could learn and prepare and be better suited to give the interview ahead of time. So on screen, you'll see what our interviewing topic looks like. And now a few examples. Questions is a great way to seek advice, as you can see here. Or it's also great for building momentum. If you're looking to seek a change or improve our interviewing process. Questions is a great way to do that, and people can vote and people can provide feedback by way of answers or by way of comments. And it's a great way to get the momentum you need to seek a change in your interview process. Or even a question whether we're asking the right things about candidates. Part of our interview process is not only making sure that you're qualified, but making sure that you fit in with other Atlassians and that you're a good cultural fit. And I think that's just a really nice debate to have sometimes with your entire company about what makes a good Atlassian or wherever you work. Great, and as I said, it's a really good place for discussion, and so it's about answers, but you also see on here it's also about comments. It doesn't have to be an answer. Confluence Question can really provide a place for this discussion to happen. And finally, the fourth strategy is to get your new hires in early. They need to find value quickly because as a new starter, you have tons of questions. And eventually they'll become the experts that they once sought. That became a natural topic for us here at Atlassian, and we wanted to ramp up new Atlassians as quickly as possible. So every new hire was told to go look at Confluence Question and look at the new hire topic when they started, and if they had any additional questions, that was a good place to ask their questions so veterans could come in and provide answers and give hires what they were looking for. So just a few examples here. We have a lot of useful answers for new hires and things like the best resources to read about on our intranet, as crowdsourced by veteran Atlassians. So it's really a good place to see the things that veterans Atlassians think are the most important. That can be knowledge transferred to new hires on their first day. Even resources specifically for a new developer to give more context about terms and what it means to be on the Atlassian development team. And then one new hire, who was actually John, our mediator, was even bold enough to seek Jira training. In this case, John was actually able to encourage our HR team to organize sessions for new hires, as Jira is mission critical to nearly every team here at Atlassian. So I wanted to do a quick recap of the 4 strategies. The first one is seed Confluence Questions with topics, questions, and answers, so everyone has examples for how the product works. Have fun with it. Confluence Questions not only needs to be knowledgeable, but it has to be desirable too. Make sure that you reserve certain topics and content for Confluence Questions. You really need exclusive content in there. And finally, get your newbies started on Confluence Questions so they won't be as threatened or hesitant to use it. So now diving into the second part of our talk today, I wanted to give you a few examples of where our employees have taken Confluence and taken them to heights we didn't really quite see, and what's possible when you let them flourish. So it might be really hard or even scary, but again, you've got to set it free. You have a ton of useful questions that right now at Atlassian, we have a ton of useful questions that we could never have dreamed of when we were first rolling Confluence Questions out and seeding our questions and answers. And so I'll cover a few of those examples and break them into 3 focus areas where we've just seen a lot of growth and to be honest, a lot of magic at Atlassian. It's really tied everyone together. So the first one might seem obvious, but I'll show you some examples where it's not. You have a community of employees, and they're experts of a lot more than what just fits under their job title. Confluence Questions is a great way to let them show it. My first example is at Atlassian, we're a collaboration company, and we obviously have a lot of people passionate about productivity and getting their jobs done faster. One Atlassian asked what people did for task and email management. And this was quite a popular question on our instance of Confluence Questions, and the community really responded emphatically. And it was a great place for learning about what other people were doing. And that's kind of the stuff that you don't always get to talk about at work. We also have a really active internal blogging culture at Atlassian, where people announce everything from new version announcements to founder updates to even if someone has a baby, it's quite common for people to post their baby photos on our Confluence instance. So someone asked, what's the best blog you've ever read on Confluence and what made it so good? And part of that was, people want to know in order to contribute to our knowledge as a company, they want to know what makes for a good blog post and what Atlassians are going to read. And finally, we've even got plenty of coffee experts in the Sydney office. If you've ever been down to Sydney and had a flat white, they're really delicious and people love them down there. So everyone has their favorite cafes, but according to the Sydney community down there, Double Barrel is the crowd favorite, and that's right around the corner in the office, and they make a mean flat white. So again, Confluence Questions is just a great way to share all the expertise you have that really doesn't fit under your job title. Secondly, your employees are passionate people, and they're passionate about more than just their day jobs, and Confluence Questions is a great way to let them show it. So in California, we've really suffered from a brutal drought for the last 2 years, and we have a number of employees that are concerned about our building's water usage. Confluence Questions has enabled people to let their environmental freak flag fly and just discuss the best practices and seek improvements and talk about things with their coworkers and what the greater Atlassian community can be doing to better accommodate our building and the knowledge of our people in spite of this drought. Confluence Questions is also a great place to share and discuss and challenge the status quo to make sure our company is doing everything to empower every Atlassian. In this case, one Atlassian wanted to know what the company could do to better support women. And a number of action items and improvements were made in response to this discussion, and it was a really powerful piece of conversation that all Atlassians were having. Finally, there's that F word again. You really have to let your coworkers share non-work. And I've already shown a few examples, but we really believe if you bond people together through the stuff that they're interested in, they're going to work even harder because they're really going to enjoy being a part of these conversations and being just closely connected with their coworkers. So here's a really nice example. Confluence Questions can be the gateway to your local San Francisco lunch cuisine that surrounds the office. So, somebody wanted to know where are the good places to go out at lunch rather than having to go out and explore on their own. Go to the good spots from day one. It's even a great place to get advice about where to bring your buddy for lunch. Every new Atlassian is paired with an Atlassian veteran, or as we like to call them, a buddy, who then takes their new hire out to lunch on the company. And usually we give a buddy $50 to go out, and so maybe the standard lunch places aren't quite as nice, and you want to go out and impress your newbie, impress your buddy. There's a Confluence question for that. And lastly, we have some passionate recreationalists at Atlassian, and sometimes the water cooler just isn't inclusive enough to share all of the Bay Area's best-kept hiking trails and campgrounds. Confluence Questions was a really cool way. It was awesome to see it unlock some of the gems for everyone, and I can speak to this one personally. It really helped me find the John Muir Trail here in Marin, and it was awesome to get that knowledge from my coworkers when I never really would have expected it. So one last recap. When you set Confluence Questions, encourage your experts, no matter what they are experts of, to share. Confluence Questions also encourages that everyone has a voice and they should share it, so you might just be improving your workplace along the way. And finally, you just have to have fun with it. This is a really fun tool, and Q&A makes that what's really fun about it. So share what you work on outside of the office. Build that community, and you'll probably make a few friends along the way. So now I'm going to open it up to Q&A. Excuse me. Sorry, a little bit of allergies over here. I'm going to open it up to Q&A. I know some people have been sending through questions while the presentation's been happening. John and I are going to take a moment to look through the questions and answer some of the more popular ones and some of the trends we're seeing throughout the questions. So just give us a minute to review, and we'll be back in a second.
So we've actually got a question for Kim from Jason that we can just go ahead and start off with, which is, what level of effort was involved in the initial topic moderation, and how long did it take for that to wind down as the user community learned those good habits? So we'll leave that one to Kim, and then we'll be back in a second with more questions.
Sure. So I'm in a unique position in that like I said, I'm in the developer support area. So we felt a lot of the pain of the repeat questions that came in. So I sort of knew just by nature what a lot of the topics and questions that could be used as seeds would be. It really didn't take as much effort as you might think, as long as you have the right people that you can reach out to that are willing to seed the questions, or at least answer the questions if you seed them, that sort of thing. It's really not too bad. And then once we rolled it out, I would say I gave it maybe a couple of weeks where I was monitoring it pretty heavily, making sure that I went and uploaded topic pictures to match the topics and poked people when they weren't answering or accepting answers or not answering questions as well. And now, I look out maybe once every couple of weeks just to see how we're doing. So I would say the rollout period wound down after about a month. But as long as you can rely on the people that you've picked to help you seed, the people that you've picked to help you monitor, then it's really pretty minimal in terms of effort.
Great, thanks, Kim. So another question that we've gotten a couple times is, were you able to get any silos of the company that generally wouldn't use a tool like this to interact with questions? So I'll let Ryan answer that one, and then if Kim wants to add some comments as well.
Sure. I think one of the teams at Atlassian that has really benefited from Confluence Questions, and I can tell you right now, we didn't even approach them as a special interest group within the company or even seed any questions for them, was our legal team. Our legal team has made a heavy use out of Confluence Questions, and it's been a great way to deflect the questions that they answer, many times over. Things about contracts, things about legal agreements. They've been able to deflect a lot of that. A lot of those questions that they get from marketing, from development, things related to intellectual property. They're answering a lot of questions, and they've built up a really nice knowledge base that can, really educate other people in different areas. So I know that when I make a contract, let's say with a third-party vendor to do maybe some design work, I know I can go to that topic and read up before I go to legal and ask them a question. And it's been able to really connect myself with the legal team, who I can tell you I'm never that encouraged or feel that great about going to work with. But Confluence Questions has made that a lot easier for me. The other one, another example I'll give you is we have an experience team here in San Francisco, and they're our administrative team. And what they do is really help make sure that our office functions. But I wouldn't say I felt particularly connected to them until they really built out their own topic in Confluence Questions. And I think they've really felt more connected to not just myself, but every team at Atlassian. And I really saw, a silo broken down there as well. And the last one I'll say is even company culture. We have a company culture topic, and we really believe in our culture and our value system here. If you ever wanted to know what our core 5 values are, you can go to our website and check it out. We really also use Confluence Questions as a ground for discussion in terms of making sure that we're defending our company culture as we grow. And I think that's really broken down silos for us across the company. So you have marketers, you have developers, product managers, support engineers, the experience team, the legal team, finance, all these teams coming together because we have a shared common interest, and that's to make sure that Atlassian continues to be the place that we know and love to work at.
And I could add to that real briefly. Because we had such a targeted rollout, I wouldn't say that we broke down many silos because the folks we've targeted primarily are sort of used to going to this sort of tool for help. But what we have done is we've enabled teams that provide support to think outside the box a little bit in terms of how they provide that support and when they really need to be doing it all themselves, and when they can kind of turn it loose and set the community at large free to help each other. So I think that's changed a bit in how we go about supporting the tools and services and users that we have within the company, and that's been really neat to see.
Yeah, and you saying that, Kim, also reminded me of, I think in terms of silos, the worst silos are the ones you don't know you have, and I think that's what Confluence Questions has been really good about breaking through, is kind of is not even highlighting those, but just not even letting those silos be real. That's been really helpful here at Atlassian.
So there's been a number of questions about permissions and limiting who can see questions and answers. So you can limit who can access Confluence Questions using permissions within Confluence. And there's in our documentation, if you just search for permissions, you'll find this. So you can grant access to Confluence Questions on a global level to different groups. Maybe you have an employees group, or you have different groups within your employees. You can do it that way. Right now, you cannot limit access to a particular topic. However, this is something that we are exploring internally right now and hope to add in the future, so that you could associate perhaps a topic with a space in Confluence, or otherwise make a topic private. Ryan was giving the example of the legal team. They add a lot of things in Confluence Questions, but I know that they would add even more if they could have some of it be private, as some of those discussions they're having might not be for everyone in the company to see. So hopefully that answers most people's questions about permissions and kind of how we lock it down. We've also had a number of questions about pricing and the relationship of Confluence Questions to Confluence. So Confluence Questions is an add-on for Confluence. It's compatible with Confluence 5.3 and later in download, and obviously it's current with the latest on-demand version. The price for Confluence Questions is 50% of the Confluence price, and you can see all that information on our website. So just give us 1 second and we'll decide on the next question.
So we have a question here about where you kind of split the difference between Confluence if you're using it as a knowledge base and Confluence Questions. And specifically, if you've written a number of how-to articles, maybe you're an IT team and you write a number of how-to articles, how to set up your printer package on your computer, how to connect to the internet. It could be a how-to anything. You have those articles documented in Confluence. What I've actually found here at Atlassian is we have questions for a lot of those how-to articles because what we find is that people, when they go in and they search Confluence for this information, Confluence Questions appears in your Confluence search. Those questions do. And it's been really valuable in lifting those documents that might be somewhere deep inside of your Confluence instance and kind of bringing them forward in the shape of questions. So those are actually turn out to be great opportunities for seeded questions. So you might have a question that's, how do I set up my printer package on my computer? And then the first answer response is a link to your Confluence page that describes that process and describes that documentation for your users. And you can have your team upvote that question, and it'll appear higher and more popular. So I think that's a really important distinction, is that Confluence Questions can be a really great way of just leveraging the content you already have in Confluence, just making it easier to find.
We've got a couple of questions about moving people from email to Confluence Questions. And this is something we've actually seen quite a bit of among our customers, people that were using internal email distribution lists. Like at Atlassian, we have one for the San Francisco office where if you need to email the whole office, you can send an email that way. Or other times for special interest groups, for, in Kim's example, .NET developers or Java developers. So we've actually found a number of customers that just go ahead and replace one of those email lists with Confluence Questions. And, they do it kind of gradually in that they introduce Confluence Questions, they create a topic around whatever the discussion email list was about, and then indicate that people should go there in the emails to the discussion list. But then we've actually had people totally switch over and shut down the email list entirely and have people move over to Q&A instead of using email at all. So I think that's one way to change behavior, is to gradually move people over from something like an email list to Confluence Questions. One of the reasons we built this product is that we find communicating via email is, it's easy, but it results in a lot of duplication of effort. The same questions get asked over and over, and people can't benefit from the conversations that go on there. If Ryan and I share an email, but it also relates to something Kim's working on, she'll never be able to see that unless somehow we forward it to her, she finds out. So we do find that that's a great way for people to see value pretty quickly and make for a pretty good transition for something like an email discussion list.
So we're going to do one last question since we're running out of time. We're almost at the top of the hour. Terry here has a question about his company is using HipChat, and it's been great for off-the-cuff questions with his teammates. He's not sure how he would be able to appropriately split between Confluence Questions and HipChat. So do we have any experience with basically how we manage between the off-the-cuff questions? We also use HipChat here. The off-the-cuff questions we ask our teammates in HipChat, and the questions built for the long term in Confluence Questions. And actually, That really lies in the hands of the questioner and the answerer. If it's a question, if it's a good question and you feel like other people get value for it, that's really up to those two people to add it to Confluence Questions to benefit other people. And then when somebody hip chats you the next time with a similar question, you can just send them a link to the Confluence question that you had answered for somebody previously. So I think it's an important part is it's up to the people to put that into Confluence Questions. That being said, we are starting to explore some integrations between Confluence Questions and HipChat, and we don't really have an idea of totally what it looks like, but I think a common process would be if you get a Confluence in HipChat, you could quickly turn that conversation into a Confluence question, but much more work to be done there. It's just something that we have been seeing here at Atlassian, and that's been quite thought-provoking for our product management team. And I think John has an example of...
Yeah, so we have a team here, the build engineering team, who is actually our heaviest users of Confluence Questions, and they're kind of an internal support for our developers. They get a ton of questions. They also have a knowledge base, and people can raise, critical issues with them. So they use a combination of Confluence, Jira, and Confluence Questions. And they also have a HipChat room where people can go and ask them urgent questions. And what they've started doing is if people ask them an urgent question in HipChat that they really think will be valuable for other people to see the answer to, either they ask the person to go answer it or ask it in Confluence Questions, and then they answer it there, or they'll just write the question in Confluence Questions themselves and then answer their own question and send the person the link. So that way it starts to train people that for a question that might have value to other people, the best place to ask that is in Confluence Questions. So that's just one example. So I know Ryan said that would be the last question, but there was one that I did want to get to, which was about using Confluence Questions with an internal and external groups. So someone was asking about using it to manage client and customer questions versus just internal. And one thing we have seen quite a bit of is among our customers is that we might have an internal community that needs to communicate with an external community, like a group of 200 developers that develop software based on your platform. So one particular company had that situation. Previously, they've been using Google Groups to communicate with this external group of developers, and then they switched over to Questions and been very happy with it. It's been a much better solution for them. So it's definitely something that's possible, and we've seen quite a bit of it. So I encourage you to try that out, and we'd love to hear how it goes. So we'll wrap it up with that, since I know it is getting to the end of the hour here, and lots of people have to go. Thank you all so much for attending. We'll be sending out a recording of the webinar, and if we didn't get to your question, we do have a list of them, and I'll try to follow up with you via email if possible to address some of those other questions. But thank you so much for attending, and we hope you test out Confluence Questions and let us know what you think.